Well, big day today, huge day, October 23rd, Friday. Welcome to Over 50 Starting Over. I'm Barry Edwards.
And I'm Merle Garrison.
And it is our 1-year anniversary.
Happy birthday.
On the dot. Yeah. Big one for us here. We started just a bit early so that we could have a little bit of time to expound on some things. We got a lot of different subject matter that we want to cover. So we might go a little bit longer since it's our 1-year anniversary. We're going to allow ourselves a little bit of leeway, but we still have some hard stops because we both have a few things to do a bit later. So Merle, we typically start off with our career/self-improvement section. And I wanted to, I was wondering about last night where things are today. I started Googling, like, what are today's biggest concerns with career? And you know what I immediately realized? I think it kind of goes without saying.
What's that?
2020 is a whole different ballgame. If you looked up an article from 2019, it's a whole different set of concerns than it is in 2020.
Oh, yeah.
Post-COVID, when the world changed.
Yeah.
So, I found this chart on civicscience.com. I'll post these links in the show notes. But it asks, how has your job been impacted by the recent COVID-19 pandemic? And still working as usual or more. 41%, the majority go with that. The majority is only 41%, but 41% are still working as usual or more. Next up is at 23%, working as usual or more, but remote. And that would be Lisa. So I think there's a little bit of good news here. You might as well combine those two and say that at 64%, people are reporting still working as usual or more. Right, so that's a positive. Because I didn't think it'd quite be that much. Did you?
It's a little surprising, I guess. But then when you think about it, if unemployment what is that? Like 60% that we're talking about right now?
64%. I got three other stats.
If unemployment were up 35%, then people would be panicking and it would be, hair on fire.
Well, I mean, just to pause it, comment on what you said there. I am worried sick about this second wave of coronavirus coming and shutting us down again. How do we survive in a shutdown?
Worried sick, no pun intended.
Oh, yeah, that's really funny. How do we survive another shutdown? That's what I want to know.
Well, that's, I know we're going to get into more of that, but it seems like there's one party that seems to be bent on shutting down and another one that is bent on opening up. So it's a lot's going to depend on this election coming up in less than 2 weeks. What is it?
Thank God.
11 days?
Mm-hmm. I can't wait for that to be over with, but we got plenty to talk about there later.
Right.
All right. So next up on this chart, there's three more stats. Working but reduced hours/pay. 14%. That's not as bad as I thought it would be.
No.
Okay, next.
I'm sure they're grateful that they're at least working.
Yeah. Not working but still getting paid. 5%. Thought that would be higher because I know a lot of people that sat around doing nothing for 6 months making big money off the government. Yeah, it seemed like a lot of people.
It's hard to that one's hard to believe, but go on.
That one also it pissed me off because the government did nothing for me in the gig economy other than that $1,200 stimulus check. Yay, thanks. But it's at the same time, on the other hand, those stimulus checks, no matter where they went out, they went back into the economy. Everybody was like redoing their patios and landscaping and fencing, and you couldn't buy any of this stuff at Home Depot. So many people were just staying at home and investing in their homes and stuff. So that kept the economy afloat, regardless of how you see it. I didn't get to personally benefit directly, but I indirectly did by the economy not crashing and going into a depression. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We're going to have to pay the piper, though, on that whole thing. I mean, we're talking, multiple trillions of dollars of stimulus packages.
And we're not done yet.
We talked about that, but those aren't just going to go away. It wasn't free money that we're talking about here. And that represents a gigantic portion of our typical gross national product that somehow we're going to have to make up. And we were already over $20 trillion in debt. So, I mean, they're just throwing these trillions of dollars out like, it's butter.
It's just numbers on a computer these days.
It doesn't matter when you think about what $1 trillion is. It's overwhelming. You can't
it's
even
unfathomable. Right.
You can't even really fathom a million, let alone a billion. But
let alone a trillion.
When you think about $1 trillion,
impossible.
Yeah, you can't even.
It's just another zero at the end.
It really is, and I mean, I understand what you're saying. I think some of this had to happen, but the way that they talk about this money, it's I guess. Our kids are going to have to pay for this, and so are our grandkids.
Yeah, we've been saying that for our entire generation already. We just got deeper into it.
Way
and finally on the chart, last and least, not working and not getting paid. 18%.
18. Okay,
that's big.
That's a big number right there.
That's a big bad number.
That is. Yep.
So with that, I do have a little bit of a positive.
Okay.
About a year ago, there was a time when we covered like some of the jobs that were out there for people over 50 starting over. Well, they're different now. Oh. That's what I went back to look at.
Interesting.
So, this is another link I have from cnbc.com. I'll leave the link in the show notes. And it is about these 15 jobs will be in high demand over the next 5 years, some with salaries topping $80,000. 15 jobs. They're much different than they were a year ago because of what coronavirus has done to the market. So I'm going to go through it quickly. A couple of them we could, anything you want to comment on.
Okay.
Let me know. But we're going to start with the lowest paying jobs first. Home health aide. There's virtually no real experience needed for this. You go in and help people that are on a ventilator at home kind of thing. That's my gist out of it. It's only averages $12 an hour though. But readily available. Need them everywhere. All right. So these jobs are readily available. A nursing assistant. Okay, not a nurse, but a nursing assistant. Average salary of $28,500. Okay, so we climbed up there a little bit. And it's their duties include taking patients' vital signs, helping patients with hygiene, serving food
Did you say 28,500? That's a year? Are we talking?
Yes.
Okay.
Annual,
all right.
Average annual salary.
That sounds like a tough job for 28,500.
It is, but it's a step up to say the least from the $12 an hour job that we just talked about.
Right. Well, that
must be certified. You need a certification in your state. Usually certifications aren't that big of a deal though. And if you're the second person bringing in income into your family,
right,
that could work out very well. Yeah. So we take a little bit of a step up with construction worker, which, by the way, I don't know how your weekend was, but I spent my Saturday working with my brother on my mom's deck and tearing apart this gigantic deck. To tear it off in the spring, we're going to put up a brick patio. Oh boy, let me tell you, I was sore. I was really sore. And
I can imagine.
I like this kind of work, but it was mostly like kind of tearing off the railings and the little railings that go in between the hand railings kind of thing. That was kind of fun because it's like total destruction. And you see like, oh my God, I just tore off the whole side of the deck just like that. Boom. But what got to me was taking out all the floorboards. Mind you, this is a very big deck. So we had to take out all the nails, which are buried into the 2x6s, deeply buried. So you take this metal claw, pound it down to get it underneath the nail head with a hammer. We're talking probably 400 or 500 nails. Ooh. It was exhausting doing that. My lower back gets to me.
Yeah. Just bending over to get anything.
Shoulders.
You can hurt yourself just bending over to tie your shoes these days.
That's what we did all day. And then hefting these 15, 16 long 2x6s to take them away into the truck. It's hard work, man. And I'm going to say that, I'm going to be 55 in January. So I've noticed in the past couple of years how I get more sore from this than I used to. but not that much more. I'm just saying, it's hard.
Yeah. But hey, no injuries. That's a good
There you go.
thing right there.
That's always a plus, because I'm usually cutting off part of a thumb or something.
Yeah. And you did that with your brother, right? You said
and it was a beautiful, beautiful day. I love working with my brother.
Right.
It's a big, long day, a lot of fun. And, but at the end of the day, he wanted to go have some beers. And I'm like,
can't do it.
Sober October. He's like, you're useless. So anyways, there's number 3 is construction worker, and just clearing construction sites, are putting together scaffolding for buildings. There's all kinds of unskilled labor that you can get started on, and you can start at an average salary of $31,500 for that. So especially, if you live in an area where you get a lot more outdoor access full year round than I do, I think that wouldn't be so bad. I love being outside,
I understand what you're saying. Unfortunately, a lot of those areas, the cost of living is much higher. So you got to factor that in there too.
Well, that's the average, and it's going to be higher in those areas and lower.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Okay. Number 4, physical therapy aid. And this is, somebody that helps a physical therapist. Now, a physical therapist has to go through a lot of education.
That's true.
Aid obviously does not. And this aid can start off at an average salary of $33,200.
Have you ever noticed how cool physical therapists are? I mean,
I've partaken for sure.
Me too. But so one thing I've noticed is that they all have like this really cool personality and everything, but they're torture artists.
Oh my, yeah, that's how you think of them. I've had quite the opposite experience. Now I agree with you that they are skillfully trained, I guess, in bedside manner. Like they're lovable. Awesome. They're all lovable.
Like you want to go say, "Oh, Joe,
my friend."
Yeah,
true.
Like now twisted a pretzel like this, and
I always push myself, and they always like, "Okay, that's enough." That's enough.
Okay, all right. I've had a couple of experiences where they've made me actually cry. I mean, I remember I had that shoulder surgery several years ago. Oh my gosh, that was terrible. And I was in great pain. And then after I had my surgery, they were making me do stuff. It was terrible.
Interestingly, coming out of my volleyball amateur career about 12 years ago, I had to do extensive physical therapy. I was sure I was going to have to get rotator cuff surgery. But physical therapy enabled me to dodge that.
That was actually the time where the first time I had physical therapy, and I remember thinking that it was going to be like, a massage or something like that. But I was
rude awakening.
I was fooled, right? Exactly. Wait, one story I got to just say. They gave me this thing that it was one of the only things that gave me comfort was I would go in and they'd hook these electrodes up to my shoulder and everything.
Oh, that's cool.
They'd turn this device on and it would pulse this electrical
impulse.
Heard of that. And it did actually give me relief, and I was in great pain. And I remember my physical therapist felt compassion for me and said, look, if you want to take this thing home, why don't you take it home for the next couple of nights until I see you again? So I took it home and I hooked it. I was kind of excited about this. I hooked it up and everything, because any kind of relief for pain when you're like in chronic pain is like an oasis. And I turned it on. Well, I didn't realize it has like a volume on it. I guess they had the volume set at like 2 or 3, but I'd accidentally turned it up to 10.
Amplification.
Oh my gosh. I shocked the crap out of myself with that thing.
If you had hair on your head, it would have been standing on it.
It would have burnt. It would have been fried hair.
You didn't have eyelashes for 6 weeks.
I actually thought that I'd figured it out and put it back on again, and boom, did it all over again.
Really?
I thought, okay, I'm just bringing this thing back.
I got to tell you, Merle, once you slacked here, I only just now put it on the side by side because you didn't warn me.
Oh, because of me.
Yeah,
Okay.
15, 20 minutes in.
Right. Okay.
You know, it's the one time you
All
didn't
right.
remind
I'll
me.
take responsibility because that's the kind of guy I am.
Okay, you're big on that. Okay, we're only at number 5. We got to get moving. Next up is medical technologist. Basically, you're changing bedpans. You're checking bodily fluids like blood and urine. I don't want to do that, but you're up to listen to this jump up. You're up to an average salary of 56.
All right, they deserve that.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I would have to be in a full bodysuit for that. One of the hazmat. Hey,
Like
next
Darth
up,
Vader.
what do you think would follow medical technologist? We'll never guess. Truck driver.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you get a $1,000 a year jump up in average salary, 57.6.
Okay.
And I mean, if you think about this, Amazon has gone through the roof, especially during COVID. You know?
This is one industry that really did well during COVID.
Yeah,
and truck drivers were an essential part of keeping things going.
And how easy is that?
Guys.
All you need is a driver's license.
Well, true, but gosh, can you imagine? I mean, I used to think this would be a cool job. I don't know.
I used to
driving
watch
across country.
I used to watch King of Queens. That guy was a UPS driver. His buddy like reminded me of you. It was, it was like the best life. Yeah. Best life ever.
Okay, maybe local truck, like that kind of local driving would be okay, but over the road, like having to drive from here over to your house in a truck, that would be tough. And plus the places that these guys have to stay and sleep, and I mean they're
a lot sleep in their truck.
They're living in an existence that you and I mean, this is day and night here. I don't know. And plus the loneliness.
Right. You talked me out of it. Jeez.
Okay. All right. Don't do that job.
Yeah. Okay. Number 7, operations research analyst. And I didn't know what this was. I quickly read about it. It's analyzing and collect data about operations in a given company.
Oh.
They speak to staff to identify problems in workflow. Sounds like you need a bit of like a consultation, a background. Identify problems in workflow, like my guy that does lean. Devise solutions for the problems. Yeah, this is like my lean guy, using statistical simulations.
Yeah, I mean, there's some people that's their personality.
But this is great news for my lean guy who's gone back out on his own, leaving a consultation company. So there's plenty of room for this. Average salary 61.4. So we get another little bump up here. Requires a Bachelor of Science degree in operation research. Statistics, mathematics are related fields. So there you go. Number 8 is a financial advisor. Now this is a tricky one to me. Like, how do you? It always seems to me like, if you're such a good financial analyst, why are you trying to get my money? Like, aren't you a millionaire?
That's how they become millionaires.
Exactly.
They need your money.
That's what it is to help individuals manage their personal finances. That might include planning short and long-term goals, navigating debt repayment, and helping select investments. So there's that. You need to obtain certain licenses. And
another
that's
job that sounds that not for me.
I totally agree. That is an average salary of 66,000 though. So another jump up. At number 9, rounding the corner here, health services administrator. Ooh, that sounds tough. I mean, that sounds like dealing with a lot of people and a lot of bureaucracy. I know because Lisa is in that field. A quick rundown on the description. First, I'll say, but you got to bump up to 70,000 on that. I think that's a little underpaid. Average. I think that's a little underpaid for what you have to go through here. But responsible for various operations of a hospital and other health-related organizations. Ordering and maintaining record of supplies, snooze. Creating schedules for employees, updating personnel about policy changes. Yuck on all of that.
No kidding.
Closely related, a registered nurse at number 10. Almost the same pay, 70,003.
Okay, that's actually hard to believe because I'm hearing nurses actually get paid pretty well, and that seems kind of low right there.
Well, it's on an average, and if you think that most of our states are flyover states, I hate that term.
I don't like that either.
Yeah, it's very derogatory.
Yeah,
but you're talking a lower cost of living, you know. So
true.
There's and also when you say registered nurse, doesn't that require quite a bit of education?
It sure does, and not easy. That is a tough road. Not only that, these guys, nurses, are working 12-hour shifts. They're dealing with this whole COVID thing. And you know, I work my industry. We work with nurses. We understand that nurses are being interrupted every 5 minutes in their position. So they're doing their job, and every 5 minutes something else comes up to distract them and interrupt them. Can you imagine trying to get anything done and people's lives are depending on you? This would be maddening. And not to mention you're in a hospital for 12 hours.
Oh, yeah. Everything you just said, I totally agree. The responsibility, you are almost a doctor. I mean, you're administering medicine, treatments, and teaching patients and their families how to manage illnesses and injuries. That's right. A lot of responsibility.
That is right. And the doctors 100% depend on these nurses' expertise. Many times the nurse knows way more about what's happening with the patient than the doctor does. These people are saints.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. So I don't know. At $70,000 average salary per year, I think that's a really tough job with a lot of education. But what they're saying is there's a very high demand for it right
There is.
So if you want to make a career change and that's something that you just love helping people, you better love helping people if you go into that.
You know, some of these nurses, they get into traveling nurses too. So there's so many opportunities to see really even the world. You can go anywhere. You're going to have a job no matter where you go as a nurse. There are a lot of benefits to being that. And if you love this kind of work, you know, it's a great investment, and the world needs more compassionate people that have that inside of their DNA. So God bless them.
God bless them, because as you said, long, hard hours. Jeez.
And walking around on that floor, they say that nurses are doing about 7 miles a day during their shifts. And think about it, they're on that hard floor too, which has got to be tough on the shins.
But I think most of them wear tennis shoes, which is definitely, you better go that route. You know, good soles on those
Take care of those feet. That is right.
Okay, so next at number 11 is web developer. Something it's a large part of my job description. Building client websites using coding languages, and depending on the job, an applicant may be required to have a bachelor's or associate's degree in web development, design programming, and other relevant fields. So
I heard that job is easy.
Oh yeah, super easy. So that's if you want to work in corporate America, ad agencies, something like that. But at $72,000 per year average salary, if that is where your aptitude lies, I think that's a great way to go. Number 12, physical therapist. Okay, so we're working our way up to there.
Okay, we went from an aide to the actual therapist.
Yeah, and it's
the torture artist.
And nearly average salary is $75,000 a year. So
how much was that aide making?
I don't recall. I think it was like 34.
Wow.
Yeah, I could go back, but then I'll lose my place.
I guess that's about half.
All right, now you're going to make me go back. All right, I'm going to tell you for sure. Physical therapy aide, 33. You're right, half.
Yeah.
Wow. So we all know
what over there, punk.
Yeah, exactly. Manage the pain. It takes quite a bit of so exercise, stretching, other various equipment. It takes quite a bit of education. And
I mean, they're practically doctors. Yeah, what they have to do. But they're almost like coaches, or you know what I mean? Like it seems like if you could get into this, it seems like a really cool job, and you get to meet a lot of cool people.
You know, a lot of people I've heard of in years gone by go to school looking to be a sports therapist because they think it'd be cool to be on like the Cleveland Browns sideline, helping people out, which I get. or, and in the training room helping out the big shots and all that. But I got to tell you, somebody that just enjoys working out and is as active as I am, I would be quite happy, I think, working at a hospital, giving physical therapy to average everyday people. I think that would be pretty rewarding. I think
that's something you would enjoy. I could see you and I could see you have a personality like that would go well. I'm sure you'd have a great bedside manner too.
Well, thank you. Never gave it a thought until just now. But you do need licensed. I don't know what that takes. But yeah, I think that would be, for the right person, I think that would be a very rewarding way to go. Next up, exactly what I would not want to do. Information security analyst. Ho hum.
I almost yawned.
Exactly. It gets worse. Keep computer systems safe by monitoring for potential breaches, implementing the use of security infrastructure in a given company. Should I go on? No,
but I get it.
Exactly.
But when you think about some of the stuff these guys are dealing with ransomware and stuff like that,
it's bad, man.
There's some evil hackers. I mean, they're in order to be a hacker, you got to have some intelligence.
You're genius,
right?
man.
You can't just hack into something, but using it for something like that, so evil. I just read about a hospital system that got shut down by some ransomware. Their whole electronic medical record, they're not able to use. So, so you're a patient in the hospital and you're staying, you're in there, you're overnight or whatever, you're getting some type of a procedure done. And now all the records, all your health records gone. There's nothing they could do. Or you're in the middle of surgery.
Did that really happen?
Yes.
Because I thought they were kind of put on an internet kind of thing, that they're no longer local.
They are. However, if you have anything on your network, let's say, for instance, you have a Windows system that is not updated, that's fresh meat for a hacker to be able to, any vulnerability that they can find in your network, they'll be able to get in. And so the way it works is they'll shut down the lifeblood of your hospital, which is the electronic medical record, until you pay them some humongous amount of money. I mean, they're actually holding all these patients ransom until they get paid. And then they've got ways to Bitcoin or whatever they call that. They've got ways to anonymously be able to get paid and everything. This is terrible.
To this point, I've never gotten the Bitcoin thing too much, other than it seems to be a great way to blackmail people.
And that's what it's being used for.
Yeah.
And these scoundrels are able to do that.
Scoundrels.
Taking advantage of these poor people that, could be your mother or your grandmother or whatever inside of this hospital. And then all of a sudden, what do? They've got to pay this money. And you can't expect the police or the FBI to settle that whole thing. And that's what these guys that you're talking about protect against. Exactly. It's got to be pretty stressful.
I would imagine. Listen here, see? No scoundrels over here on my watch.
What the guy that lives over by you showed me his campaign sign. I forget his name now, the news guy with the mustache.
Oh, Geraldo.
Yeah. Those are the words that he would wear. That's
dirty. Yeah, dastardly. Okay, we're almost done here. And 13 information security analysts brings in an average of 81.5. So at number 14, equally as boring, statistician. Rather analyze data in a given field such as agriculture or health.
Data.
Yeah, but you're up to 83.2.
Yeah, but look what you got to do. You're going to beat yourself. You beat your head against the wall with all this data, unless that's what you love. It's personality type.
If you love it, then you've already gotten your master's degree in mathematics, mathematics, statistics, or survey methodology.
Right. This is why I
So,
majored in communications.
and your name is probably Poindexter.
Poindexter.
Okay, and last, and certainly not least, the 15 is software developer, which is more creative. It's
Okay.
definitely a combination left brain, right brain, the whole thing. I get
Right.
this. Creating software to meet users' needs, design computer programs, smartphone applications, which designing games, I think, would be fun.
Yeah, I
And
think so too.
yeah, make sure tech runs smoothly. So,
Another personality type, I've had to deal with a lot of software developers, and they're much like the physical therapists. They all seem to be pretty cool guys.
yeah, I totally agree. In fact, my one renter in our rental property is looking for a job in software development. He is a software developer. And this is the last one, the highest paid of all of these 15 on
This is the
average.
87.
On average, this is 105.
Ooh.
Yeah. So there you have
Wait,
it.
drum roll.
Yeah. Why would we do a drum roll at this point?
Oh, I thought there was one more. It's the software developer making the 100K,
Yes,
100 plus
that is
K.
correct.
Okay, all right. No drum roll.
So they are number one. So there you have it for our career section of O5O. And just hoping that everybody is getting by in a satisfactory way while COVID continues to go on. I'm hearing some things, Merle, about now I think I'm hearing about 6 different vaccines, treatments that are that are in human trials.
Yeah.
I'm hearing a difference in terminology now. Rather than when you say vaccine, you think cure. I'm hearing more treatment kind of verbiage now. What about you? You know anything new on this front? Because I am tired of COVID.
I am too. I haven't really looked at the difference. I've been hearing treatment for a long time, but I didn't realize that vaccine was a treatment rather than a vaccination. Like you're done. Sort of like the polio vaccination or the smallpox vaccination. Like if you had that, you're not getting it.
Exactly.
So are you hearing differently?
I'm hearing more terms like treatments, managing, making things more manageable. It just sounds like they're softening up the verbiage on things.
Well, one of the things that we're finding out is that there are treatments like remdesivir and other things. You know, when the president got COVID-19, they were using the latest treatments that they have for COVID-19. And apparently over the last several months, they've made some pretty good progress as far as treatments go. And at the same time, what we're seeing is that there is an evolution to these viruses where they start out one way and then they become less deadly over time, and that is seemingly what we're seeing out there. But I am hearing that there are several companies out there like Johnson & Johnson that are right on the cusp of being able to produce a vaccination. And I don't believe that those are vaccinations where they're considered treatment. I think those are, you take it and you're immune.
Yeah, but I thought Johnson & Johnson got shut down, along with another one, got shut down for a while because there was like inflammation of the spine and stuff like that. But Moderna,
that's the other big one that I've heard.
Was moving yeah, same here. That's about the extent of what I know off the top of my head.
Yeah, if we go any further, we're probably gonna get sued. So
yeah, let it go. All right, look, we got a lot that I would really like to cover, and how much time we're going to spend, I don't know. But for about 2 months, we've been threatening to talk about a very big issue that is a cultural issue, and it's the differences between men and women, the new, I guess you call it third wave feminist movement, and the effects of all this, how the far left is taking this, in our opinion, a little too far. Can we finally cover that in our 1-year anniversary episode, along with, we still have to get to the debate, some things that were supposed to transpire there that got shut down at the last.
Yeah, amazing, amazing stuff. Yes, we can cover that.
All right. Well, then let's start with the differences between men and women, the so-called third wave feminist movement. Jump in wherever you want. I don't have it completely thought out how I wanted to get it started, but I'll just say that I grew up as the son of a feminist during, for the most part, the 70s. And it did me no favors because I think that, and, I don't want to slight my mother on here because she's always been an idealist, a typical, very liberal idealist of how if we all just took and here's the thing that liberals used to stand for. If you take personal responsibility, everybody would live in a utopia. The new far left is all about no personal responsibility.
I agree.
I wonder how, I guess I have my theories of how that got twisted.
Well, here's one thing is that, and you and I have had discussions about this, but I don't believe that liberals, and you say far left, I just say left. I don't think they have anything in common, to be honest with you.
That's true.
I see you're a liberal, but you don't have anything in common with the left. The left is different than conservatives and liberals. We can get along, but
you're right.
I don't think liberals and leftists can get along.
Yes,
and certainly conservatives and leftists can't. So if your mom is in that liberal camp,
now far left. This is what happened.
Moved.
Well, this is what happened. They don't think they did. Is if you were a liberal that watched CNN for the last 30 years, to you think that you're in the same spot and the whole rest of the world moved on you.
Well, now, isn't that interesting? Because think about CNN when they first came out, what a credible news source they were.
Yes, that's the
where
that's
are
the
we
point.
now? I have examples just from watching them last night. It's just, are you kidding me? This is an alternate universe we're looking at here.
If you have any degree, if you actually have any degree of unbiasedness, then you've watched them go crazy into the fake news world. They're tabloid all the way. And but so, if you were a traditional liberal that trusted in CNN and that was your news source and you kept it on the TV like a lot of people do, they'll keep it on the TV damn near all day. Right. In the background. Yeah. You've gotten brainwashed over time. Yeah. Slowly but surely you've gotten brainwashed. And that's where the far left has come from, along with the infiltration of the education system. And we've talked a lot, but what we're really getting at is what has happened in the feminist movement. Now, so back in the 70s, it was very real, very valid. Women were just really entering the workforce. By the way, when my mother entered the workforce in what was then called the welfare department, because again, idealist, she wanted to help society do the right thing. She very quickly outpaced my father, who was in the trades as far as pay goes.
Is that right?
In the 70s, by the late 70s, I'm at least early 80s, she was making more than my father.
What an accomplishment.
Yeah, and the benefit, working for the government and stuff. Right. So my point to all that is the feminist movement made a lot of good, solid, positive progress very quickly. And things had changed very quickly in our society. When I say very quickly, I'm talking over a 30-year span, which is very quickly in the grand scheme of things. So I look at friends and family like Lisa, who went through corporate America since the late 80s, getting out of college, through the 90s. She witnessed a lot of sexual harassment throughout the 90s. So think about where we were back then. And when you see today, we witnessed recently the Kavanaugh hearings, where they're reaching back 30 years ago to a different day and age. Yes. Trying to apply today's morality to back then, which, boy, that kind of manipulation, that's where I get really burned up. And it makes me go so far against the far left movement that I all of a sudden look far right. Still a liberal, still believe in equality for everybody, equal playing field for everyone. But back to what I was saying. So Lisa went through all of that and witnessed the very accepting sexual harassment of the 90s. But as we got into the 2000s, very quickly, that turned around. And it didn't take long before human service departments would, just the mere whisper of sexual harassment, they would be getting lawyers on the phone.
Right.
Men would be worried about their entire careers. So I'm sure that you have your industries like Hollywood, entertainment, and stuff like that, where sexual harassment is still part of the game. But for the most part, it's really difficult though, because men and women are attracted to each other in completely opposite ways. This is where we get into what's wrong with the feminist movement, because as soon as you start to point out differences, the left starts getting crazy and starts calling you sexist. It is not sexist to address what is scientifically evident and objectively evident. So
I think you're right.
And I'll go as far as to say that even in the 70s, the movement went so far where, as I'm saying here, if you start pointing out differences between the sexes, you'd start being called a male chauvinist pig. That was big back then. And so they're already shaming you. And it got to the point, like with me being raised by a feminist, I was taught that just being masculine was shameful. Like we were at fault in some way for being more aggressive, for being boys, this, that, or the other. Well, that caused a lot of anxiety in me growing. Oh, so we're the same. We're equal. We're the same. I start dating, and it took me a couple decades to figure out how different we were. I mean,
so
like, why are you
what
crying?
Happened to you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're just so different that it finally took some guy in the 80s, I didn't look it up, but to finally write a book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. And everybody went, oh my God, this guy's saving the world. Every psychologist is like, you got to read this book. It's because
I wonder how well received that book is today, because
we need to reissue it today.
I mean, that flies in the face of the feminist movement that's out there. And I don't even know if you would even call it feminist anymore, because so many men actually believe that the exact same thing. It's that men and women are virtually the same. We are created equal, but we are not equally created.
There you go. Perfect.
There are differences between us. Our physical stature is different. Number one, we think differently. And very complementary, by the way.
Yes.
And this is a strength. I mean, in my marriage, my wife thinks very differently than I do. And when you put those two thought patterns together, it provides a fortress of safety for us. And although we have disagreements sometimes, thank God she thinks the way that she does. And I hope that she would say the same thing about me. But, there are certain things that I am very focused on as far as taking care of the family. And there are other things that she's focused on. And you know what? It's such a blessing, because I don't have to worry about those things. She's got that. Yeah. And the things that she doesn't have, I've got that. And so that's what I mean about this fortress of safety between us. We've got all the angles covered. But if you try to eliminate that whole thing, I mean, for instance, we had a situation where somebody tried to break into our house. And now and this was in the middle of the night. Anne-Marie and I were both sleeping on the couch in the living room, and somebody's trying to break into my house. It's a crazy guy. Now, if we were equal, I would expect, well, why don't you get up there and prevent this guy from coming on in here? I mean, shoot, we're equal, aren't we? But no, that's not even a discussion.
Sure, of course not.
I was right there with a big metal thing ready to, swing away if the guy comes in the door to protect my wife. And fortunately, it didn't come to that. And fortunately, the police had gotten there before anything actually ended up happening. But I'm just saying,
because that was like the third door that he was trying to beat down.
He had broken into two of my neighbors' houses before he got to mine, and actually made it into the house. Into one of my neighbors. He made it into their bedroom. It was about 2:00 in the morning, and they're standing on top of the bed. The wife wife is screaming and the husband is saying, what do you want? And he says he's looking for his wife. And he said, well, she's out here. Funny story, on the way out of that particular house, he then bursts open into the teenager's room, who was up late doing something on his computer. And he knocks the kid over and looks into this kid's closet looking for his wife. And
wow.
I've always wondered, I wonder what that kid was looking at on the computer late at night when this ravenous dude comes in looking for his wife. That had to be horrifying for that kid. But anyhow, he showed up at my house next, and fortunately the police had already been called by the other two neighbors. That's why the police got there so fast.
Right.
But anyhow, back to the thing. Well, I wouldn't expect my wife to get up there and physically protect me like that. That's my job, and I pride myself on protecting my wife. That's my duty to do that as the man in the relationship, and that somehow has become a bad thing.
Yeah, it certainly has. Oh boy, something on the tip of my, what I wanted to say is, so you were talking about how we have very complementary personalities, and I completely agree. Now, as soon as I say that, I have to say, on average here, for the most part, there are people that are different. You definitely have people that are gay. You have people that are bi. You have transsexuals. Is it not transsexual? Whatever it is. Trans.
Be careful there, because that's changing. That's evolving. And if you say the wrong thing, apparently you're anti-gay.
No ill intent. I'm saying
of course not.
There are smaller percentages of people that are different. So I'm talking about on average, right. The average. We are really like one whole human being that's been completely torn in half, but put together are put together like gears on a clock. It's how we fit.
That's exactly right. And I mean, just out of the Bible, we become one flesh.
Yeah.
I see that.
I'm exactly backing up what you're saying. I think it was you and I, it may have been your brother Scott and I, we were talking about fairly recently about this. And we laughed because I said, if it weren't for women, we'd all just us guys would be happy living under bridges.
It would be an ugly, stinky world that we would live in.
Scott's like, we just need a grill with some hot dogs. We have mustard on our shirts.
I think the most popular guys would be the stinkiest guys.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Oh boy, yeah. So that guy should be president.
I mean, really, women keep us. They save us from ourselves, because we could be completely self-destructive in our primitive nature when let out of control.
Which reminds me, last night I was going for my nightly walk, and it's finally gotten chilly out here, and I'm going out the door, nice. and Anne-Marie is going, wear a jacket. And I'm going, no, I'm not wearing a jacket. The more she said to wear a jacket, the more I didn't want to wear a jacket, and I didn't. And I didn't want to admit to myself about a half a mile down the road, man, I should have worn a jacket.
Totally.
I got home and I told her, you know what, I was sweating on my walk. And she goes, that's because I prayed for you.
Too funny. But what has happened now in this, for some reason, it seems to be called third wave feminist movement. And what is happening now, and is very pronounced in the Scandinavian countries, is they are very concerned with outcomes rather than equal opportunity. Totally believe in equal opportunity, but they want to make sure there's equal outcomes. And I saw a Jordan Peterson interview where he was being interviewed by 3 different Scandinavian experts of whatever, one's a journalist, one's some kind of social psychologist, and they didn't know what to say to him, because he was just telling them all of this. The one lady's like, well, we want our boys to play with dolls so they get in touch with their feelings and stuff like that. And Jordan Peterson has made his claim to fame by posting his lectures on YouTube, YouTube is like 80% male, the audience. And males have really, really picked up on this, because they're finding a solace in, he's saying that I could be normal, masculine, that it's okay. Because Peterson, as a nationally renowned, world-renowned psychologist has recognized the anxiety that is being thrust upon males as they're trying to be raised in an unnatural environment. And being told that, let's talk about toxic masculinity, manspreading, mansplaining,
Mansplaining.
all of
This
these
is
incredibly sexist, anxiety-inspiring terms. You go.
well. First off, the terms themselves sound so derogatory. You're mansplaining. First off, the word man has become a dirty word. You know, if you're mansplaining, and I remember the debate between Kamala Harris and Mike Pence, and the first time that Mike Pence interrupted Kamala Harris, she said, "Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking."
Yeah.
And then they had a T-shirt with that on it that they were selling the very next day. So this was a setup, absolutely. But the news went crazy with this. This is the commander in chief in mansplaining. Well, if a woman interrupts a man, is it womansplaining? No, this is a way to.
No, we would say nagging.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying this is their method to silence men and marginalize men for being men.
Trying to claim more power. It's like, no, you're equal. We
Right.
accept it. You do have equal pay. Don't tell me that because you want more time off with your kids, that's not equal pay.
Well,
No.
here's the other thing is if it's equal, then it should be equal. Because if you look at the debate before that between Trump and Joe Biden, well, they were interrupting the heck out of each other. Were they mansplaining? I mean, so I'm just saying. So if everything is equal, then everything should be equal. If it's going to be one way with two men talking and they're interrupting each other, it shouldn't be that you have some type of advantage that no one can interrupt you because you're a woman, because that in itself is saying that you're not equal. So therefore you need to have training wheels or something like that in order to be equal. That's not the truth. I go back to what you said, Barry. A liberal mentality is, and I think conservatives actually agree with this, is that we have equal opportunity. And that means that you could replace Mike Pence with a woman, and that woman would interrupt, and it wouldn't be womansplaining or, oh, look, you're mansplaining because you just interrupted me. No, that's just the way politics is. It's an equal thing. And
equal
anybody
rights.
you can be equally as rude or equally as polite. That's just how it is. I'm not saying interrupting is a man thing or that it's a good thing. I'm just saying that's what happens in politics. Just like in football. If women are going to play football with men, you can't say, well, you can only tackle me in this particular way. You're going to get tackled the exact same way because it's equal. That's how it is. That's how it works. Right. I think this also plays into this whole thing of, like you're saying, I think it's such a great point about this whole equal outcomes versus equal opportunities. This is a huge thing. And this is where you get this whole mentality that if I identify as a woman and I want to go out for the women's track team, then that's like the equal outcome kind of mentality. I get to, then I'll race. It doesn't matter that I'm a man. I identify as a woman, so I should have that opportunity to do this. And what it's doing is it's ruining women's sports.
Absolutely. That's been happening all over the place and becoming quite an issue. Men they have all this testosterone. We have much bigger bones and density. Women have hips that are made for childbearing. Sorry, that triggered somebody, I know, but that is a reality. They don't work as well at running it powerfully in a football game or whatever as a man. We've been traditionally built to be hunter-gatherers and the protectors. Women have been traditionally built to be childbearing beings. Now, the fact that we're sharing these responsibilities, I think, is tremendous, but you can't deny the underlying instincts that are appropriate for both.
Well, the point that you're making has been so corrupted. If we take a look at the Democrat Party and the debates that they had in the primaries, you had this whole thing about where men supposedly can menstruate.
What?
You don't remember that?
I don't.
Oh yeah, that was a big thing, and it was this whole thing about the LGBT community and that men should be able to have abortion rights just like
What?
women.
Well, I don't know. I didn't hear that, so I can't speak
Oh
to
yeah,
it. But I do
look it
have
up.
this thing. I'm not going to go deep into it because of the time thing. I don't want to get off track either. I don't even know where I truly stand on abortion because I hadn't given it a lot of research.
Oh, I'm not even talking about where we stand on it. Just what man could have one. I mean, that's really what it is. Yeah, is that a man doesn't have women's internal parts. Men can't give birth. That's a physical difference between men and women, and so a man can't menstruate. You could physically change through surgery male parts and female parts, but you can't physically change the DNA of a man or the DNA of a woman. You're still going to have the XY chromosomes are not going to change, and that's where we are. Is that we have been designed to complement each other as men and women. And for some reason, this movement has tried to take that away from us, and therefore it weakens our relationships. I mean, this whole
it increases anxieties.
It really does. And like, for instance, I was taught growing up that you hold the door for a woman if she's coming in, and that's chivalry. And now, if you do, you might get yelled at if you open a door for somebody.
I never have. I do hold the door.
I do too. I'm never going to stop doing that.
There is a thing, again, not to get too off track, but there is a thing where politeness and manners are gone today. No please, thank yous, or holding doors or anything else, it seems, is being taught anymore.
I know.
It's terrible.
Terrible.
I want to get back to, and I hope I'm not cutting you short, but I want to get back to a better, further explanation on outcomes, the equality of outcomes versus equality of opportunities. Totally agree. And equal rights. Equal rights is equal opportunities. It is implied in the leftist movement there are not equal rights. People are claiming victim for everything. If there are not an equal rights, I want to know where that is, and let's take a look at it and pass that law, because I'm not aware of anything left out there.
Well, that's funny, because I think that the feminist movement would say the reason that you're saying that is because you're a man.
Okay, it's true, but I'm talking about reading laws on a piece of paper.
No, I understand.
So it's really cut and dry. Versus, and this is where I want to shed light on things, versus equal opportunities. Scandinavian countries, which the left are very obsessed with and want to mimic, they are very concerned with equal opportunities, very concerned that they can't get more women to be successful engineers. That's a big thing.
Now think about that. Why do you think that is? Okay.
And more men in the nursing industry.
Why do you think that is?
It's very simple. And again, Jordan Peterson explained this. Men instinctually are about things. Men just like things, and you could like repairing an engine or thinking about how to invent things, engineering. Women are about people, nursing. That is, generally speaking, you can do all the studies that you want. You're going to find, do your control groups, do a large section of the population. These have all been done over and over again. Men are about things. They're interested in things. Women are more interested in people.
Now
and
think
that's
about
the way
that.
It goes.
What a great thing that you're saying right now. For instance, my kids, I have a boy and a girl. Now they're a man and a woman, but when they were kids, my son was building things building blocks, building things with Legos. My daughter wasn't,
because you made him do that.
no,
That's
that's
what
he
they'll
was.
say to you.
But hold on.
You were letting him be
They
him.
had access to both of their toys. They could play with either. I didn't make anybody do anything. They had separate rooms, but they played together all the time.
Sure.
He was naturally interested in certain things that she wasn't interested in. They have completely different personality types. It's how we're made. My mom makes a great point when she talks about, why aren't more women in construction? You don't see a bunch of women. You see some women out there. We're not talking about
always outliers.
Exception. We're talking about what, it's not like they're not trying to hire women in construction. You can't come in and apply for this job. You're a woman. That's not happening. Right. It's just that. And then she says, like, here's another one is why aren't, the majority of people that ride motorcycles are men. Not all men, not all women don't ride motorcycles. Lots of them do, which, by the way, I think is really cool. But it's more of a man thing. More men are attracted to that kind of thing.
And also there's a physical, I mean, it's beneficial to have a degree of physical power. What I'm trying to say is women aren't as strong as men, and motorcycles are heavy.
Physically. Yeah, they are. They are.
So there's,
you don't want to mess with that.
But dude, we wouldn't have, to your point, we wouldn't have an infrastructure if it weren't for men to design and build it.
That's right. Or do the hard physical labor that it takes to do it. Again, the outliers, women are out there too. We're not saying they can't do it. It says they don't want to do that. Just like men don't want to do where you find mostly women in nursing. But there's men who are very good at it. Sure. Very, very great at it, actually. But for the most part, this is something that more women are attracted to. Exactly.
And the point, so the point is that when you are so worried about equal outcomes, now you start, okay, you have to lower the bar. I'm back to the Scandinavian countries again. So they want more women to be industrial designers in these kind of professions. So they have to lower the bar. They have to penalize men, the top tier of these, to get more women in there who may not be as good. We are doing that in our own higher education systems here in the United States, penalizing Asians because they have, on average, better parenting, a better family nucleus that also puts more of an emphasis on education.
It's the values that are instilled.
The value system.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
So we're penalizing them. So people with lesser degrees in that area can rise up and join the ranks. But that makes us weaker as a country. Now, what I believe in all of these instances is if you got a problem with that inferior segment, then develop a program that helps the inferior segment rise. Do a study on why they are down there and help them overcome those problems and be able to join the more elites of that.
This is such a great point that you're making. And, this goes beyond just men and women, and it goes really back to what Martin Luther King talked about. Is I don't want to be judged by my color. You could substitute other things in there. My sex, my country of origin, anything. I want to be judged by the content of my character. And out here in California, as a matter of fact, they have lowered the bar exam that attorneys have to take. They've lowered the bar. They've lowered the bar for the bar so that more Black people could become attorneys here in the state. Every state has a difference. So first off, how demeaning is that?
That is.
As a Black person. Yeah. So you lowered the bar. It's sort of like when you go to play golf where you have the place where men can tee off from versus the place where women tee off from. So it's the same thing where, well, if you're Black, you can tee off from over here. Here you go. You can step up over. Do you need a boost? You know what I mean? Like, how emasculating is that? And the whole thing isn't because Black people are dumb. Let's look at the root of the problem. There's a problem in our areas where Black people live with the educational system. Why is it like that? well, look at the politics that are happening over there. It's not because Black people don't have the capacity. Obviously they do. But if you rob them of an education,
Yeah.
and also back to the Asian culture, if you don't have a dad in the house and a mom that are instilling values that matter about how to live your life, you're robbing these people. They're going to come out into society disarmed, and therefore you're going to lower the bar. And now, by the way, that means what's going to happen is this, is that if you are in trouble and you need an attorney, and you
don't want the Black attorney.
That's what a systemic racist society actually is. And
there
that's
you
what
go.
we're creating.
Agreed. But we should stay on subject. And in fact, Merle, maybe we should, for now, because we can always come back and revisit it. It's endless. Get back into the trans movement. I can go there for about another half hour to an hour too.
Right. Yeah.
But even though we're giving ourselves leeway on our anniversary here, we still got to talk about that debate.
The debate. How about that? You know what? I was actually looking forward to this one. I was actually a little bit excited about it because we've really been robbed of the debate season here. That first one that we had with Trump and Pence, to me, was almost like an asterisk by it, because that was a complete disaster. I did not enjoy that whatsoever. I did think that the one between Pence and Harris was noteworthy. I thought that they both did a good job in that debate. But this one, I really thought that both of them did their best. I would say that there was a note of civil discourse that was happening between the two of them, which I'm very thankful for. I do think that if you were a Biden fan going into that you probably came out of the debate thinking, well, Biden did a great job. And if you were a Trump fan going into that, then you probably thought, well, Trump did a great job. If you're a Biden fan, you probably thought Trump was a big liar. And if you were a Trump fan, you probably thought Biden was a big liar. What do you think, Barry?
I think you just summed that up perfectly. I really did, because I really pride myself on trying to see both sides. And boy, I really find Trump to be so disingenuous, and his hyperbole of just repeating, no, it's really great. We did a really great job and we're going to do a perfect thing. All of that stuff. It really turns me off, and it's insulting to my intelligence. And I do think that he lies quite a bit, but I also tend to think that Biden seems to be in some big lies too. However, However, I don't know where this is going, and it's very interesting. So a couple hours before the debate, I saw news reports that Hunter Biden's ex-partner, business partner, was going to be in the audience at the debate. And this is a big, big unveiling about, because he's admitted to all of the corruption of Hunter Biden and the implications of Joe, as well as the big guy or the chairman, that he is the benefactor of 10% of deals here, $3 million there. And it sounded like it had all the ring of truth. And then just this morning, I didn't know this, just this morning, Lisa told me that she saw that the Wall Street Journal, the right-leaning Wall Street Journal, debunked all of that, and that's why that partner was not at the debate. So within 2 hours of the debate, the Wall Street Journal somehow debunked all this information. So it once again seems like the Obamagate of several months ago, where there's all this great big news flying around on the right of all of this criminal activity, and then it just fizzles right out. And this seems like this is happening again. I don't know what to believe anymore. And I'm just going to piggyback on what you said. If you were a Trump guy, you thought Trump did great. If you were a Biden guy, you thought Biden did great. I thought Biden seemed very well rehearsed though sometimes he stumbled looking for his words. But I think that he was given every question and he rehearsed every one of them to nauseum, for sure.
Yeah, I would say that the biggest mistake that Joe Biden made was at the very end of the debate when he actually said that he would do away with the oil industry. And
in
this
5
is,
years, right? Isn't that it?
Yeah, he said he would phase it out. But look, the oil industry is a gigantic section of our economy. I mean, it is something like 5% of our economy is in the oil industry. That is, right now we've got 11 million US citizens that are in the oil industry, and many of those people work in the battleground states that Joe Biden absolutely has to win in order to be the president. One of those is Pennsylvania, another one is Texas, another one is your state in Ohio, another one is Florida. And so so he actually, there was a whole thing about fracking and would you do away with fracking, and
he's waffled on that a lot.
Well, he actually said that he never said that he would get rid of fracking, and Trump challenged him on that. And Biden said, well, then show the video. Well, Trump put the video out there of him saying it several times. And so, this is the interesting thing that these politicians seem to forget, that we have YouTube. We can go and we can take a look at it. But I think the big deal last night was him saying that he would get rid of the fossil fuels, that he would get rid of the oil industry. His comment was that the reason that he would do that is because the oil industry pollutes significantly. I think that he's in big trouble with that whole thing. But
well, first of all, Merle, for sure, because that's impossible. It is 100% impossible, because it would bring us into a devastating depression because in that amount of time. Now, if he said over 30 years, I could buy that, and I'd also be on board with it, because I think naturally we're going to go in that direction anyway, and we should. But over 5, that is like not even remotely possible without bringing catastrophic devastation to the world economy, because we play such a big role in it.
Well, agreed. And I also think that if you're running for president and you're looking to win in these battleground states, that it's probably something you don't want to actually say less than 2 weeks before the election.
Yeah,
and if we take a look at how elections are won, it's not won by the popular vote. It's won by the Electoral College as per the Constitution. So you have to take a look at these states where the big marbles are, and many of those states are where oil production is absolutely king. And so if you're saying to these families that live in those states that I'm going to eliminate your way of life, the only thing you know how to do, that is devastating to your chances of becoming the president. So I think Joe Biden handed Trump a gigantic gift in that area.
It would seem to me, but that those are not his words nor his idea, that some experts did some kind of polling and told him to say that. What happened.
I think that's where the entire thing is really coming apart for Joe Biden, is that people are realizing that he's not the one that's architecting his campaign. He's being told what to do in his campaign. And I believe Trump tried to point that out. But I want to go back to this whole thing about the business partner and the debunking. I don't know what the deal is on this whole thing, but here's what I do know, is that the First Amendment gives us freedom of the press. And I think that the bigger story, as we talked about last week, is how the press is handling this information. This is a story. And the story has been ongoing for some time now, but it's escalated in the last couple of weeks with the Hunter Biden hard drive. And the hard drive is something that you can't dismiss. There's evidence on there, and the evidence is pretty overwhelming, but the mainstream media has come in to say that this is Russian disinformation. And this is where we start to get into the whole 1984 Orwellian mentality that the news media is creating news, and they're creating a perception that isn't necessarily the truth. What I would rather see the news doing is going in and doing actual investigative journalism when a story like this comes in and showing us evidence where something is either true or false. And what we've gotten through these stories is not evidence. We've gotten a dismissal. And not only that, but we've actually gotten pure censorship. I was actually watching MSNBC after the debate last night because I thought, I thought Trump did a pretty good job last night. But I bet you if I turn over to MSNBC and listen to what they have to say, I bet you they're going to say just the opposite. And sure enough, that's what happened. I wasn't surprised by that.
Sure.
But what I did hear was it was what's the guy that conflated the story? I can't remember his name now, but he's back in the news now. He'd gotten cut off and he's on MSNBC. But anyhow, he was interviewing somebody and he was saying, did you feel like I felt about this information about the hard drive and this guy that came out of this alleged hard drive and this alleged story and this alleged information and these alleged emails that was something we couldn't follow? And they was making a smirk when he was saying this, and they made fun of it. And if they have evidence that says this is Russian disinformation or this is all fake, bring it out. That's what I want to hear. But I don't want to hear you demeaning it just because it's supporting a candidate that you don't like.
The go-to is always Russia.
Why?
Because people are so distrustful against Russia, I suppose, dating all the way back to Cold War days. That's what I suppose. I've not seen any evidence of any link between, to say the least, no evidence of any link between Trump and Russia during all this time. Well, this isn't about, this time it's not about Trump and a link to Russia, but about Russia's interference with what we never say. So they're talking also, and more of the smokescreen is about Russia's interference, China, now Iran in the election. And nobody ever mentions how we interfere with their political matters covertly.
Well,
everybody does it. Everybody with a computer, every country with a computer does that, tries to, to their best interest. So
you're making a great point on this. And
it's some propaganda there.
It is interesting what you're talking about, because our CIA, that's what they do. They disrupt. And yes, you're right. But I'm making a point. The whole notion of the CIA was to turn that type of strategy on other countries. However, what we're seeing today is that they've turned inwardly, and they're using that same strategy on us, our own people. The things that they learned by disrupting other countries, they're doing to us now. And boy, I saw a documentary recently where it talked about how the CIA is actually running our news organizations these days.
Really?
We saw, interestingly, where what was it, the last debate that didn't actually happen, where the guy came from C-SPAN. I was hearing about his involvement with the CIA. There's a lot of weird stuff that happens with the CIA. Just last night, I thought it was interesting that Joe Biden brought up this whole story about Tony Bobulinski, the guy that you talked about. And Joe Biden, in dismissing it, said that the intelligence community, of retired intelligence community people, signed into this and said that this is all Russian disinformation. And I thought that was an interesting comment, because you have today the FBI, the CIA, and the national, the director of national intelligence all saying there's not a shred of evidence of Russian intelligence here. And these people aren't necessarily Trump fans that are saying this. This is what they're saying. But then you have these people that are retired intelligence people that are saying this is Russian and this is Russian disinformation. First off, if you're retired, you don't have access anymore to those top secret lines like the people that are actually in there. And then when you take a look at what happened with the CIA, like Brennan and Clapper and Comey, those guys, well, these guys were probably the guys that Joe Biden was referring to, which we know those were the guys that were trying to throw Trump under the bus with the FISA warrant and the Carter page and the spying on the thing. Of course, they're going to say that. This is a weird time that we live in right now. It feels a lot like the Soviet Union right now. And
it does.
How, and I think that's the bigger story here. I was kind of surprised that none of this actually came out in the debate last night. About how Twitter and Facebook have suppressed this whole story. And then you look at the mainstream media who's not actually covering this. And when they do cover it, they call it Russian disinformation. And I feel like that taints the voting pool. Why not just investigate it and tell us what the truth is so that we can know one way or another, rather than make it this huge shrouded mystery, which I think actually kind of works against their whole agenda in the first place.
Maybe it depends on how the percentage of Americans are gullible. And
well, I go back to, if you were already going to vote for Biden, I don't think this debate changed anything.
You're
and if you were
probably
vote for Trump, but there is a percentage, a small percentage in the middle that are, that are going to be very important to this election.
Yeah, you might be right. I wanted to swing the other way on this because this bothered me a lot about, of course, they always come back to Trump's tax returns, lack thereof, and all of that. Oh, he only paid $750 in taxes last year. And he says over and over again, oh, I prepaid millions of dollars, millions and millions of dollars. I prepaid, in his typical hyperbole. That sounded like a lie to me. What do you think? I can't prove it. Nobody can prove it one way or another right now. But it sounds like something is going to come back to bite him in the butt, and he's going to just talk around that in the near future. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't put a lot of stock in that whole thing. Well, first off, I know that the top 1% are paying something like 50% of the tax base here in this country, and certainly Trump fits into that. I don't believe that he only paid $750 in taxes. I really don't believe that. I don't think that's a story, to be honest with you. And the other thing, too, is that there's no constitutional rule or law that says that he has to show that information. We've never had a multi-billionaire. Hold on. We've never had a multi-billionaire who's become the president, ever. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that if you saw how much he made in the first place, that might just be something that would be a negative to begin with. And secondly, when you talk about capital gains tax, this is something that really hurt Romney when he was running, and he had a very hard time trying to defend himself. But investment dollars, the taxes on investment dollars are capital gains taxed. And that is at a very much lower rate than your income tax are taxed at. And the reason is because there's an incentive in investing in other businesses to grow our economy. But that is an easy target for people to go after. I personally, if I was him, I wouldn't want to put my tax records out there.
No, I agree. And I think because it ultimately boils down to that we have tremendous amount of tax advantages for the very wealthy, for those that are investing. And you're saying a capital gains tax, the way to avoid that is to sell off one piece of property, invest it into another.
Right.
And all of these things, it gets very complicated very quickly. So you're right, that is low-hanging fruit for the left, for Democrats to be able to construe it as something very simplistic.
I agree.
And because it is too complicated to put out there in a digestible manner. So it comes back to believing what you want to believe.
Yes.
Once
and it's
again.
very, easy to taint it into, this is a bad thing. This guy's making way too much money. And look, he only paid this amount in taxes. That's exactly what Obama did to Romney, and it worked. And Romney was befuddled. He had no way to defend himself. It was something like, you're paying way less tax than your secretary is paying. And they were talking about the percentage of tax that he pays, not the actual overall amount that he pays. And Warren Buffett came in and jumped all over that. This is terrible. And well, he's a guy that's made his whole living off of investments. So yeah, he's saying it's terrible, but yet he's laughing all the way to the bank because he's doing the exact same thing. The fact is if you ever read that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which I highly recommend, it really goes into how you know, the mentality of the worker versus the mentality of the rich. And the rich don't want to pay, don't want to give all of their money away. And therefore the way that they do it is they invest in businesses, and therefore they pay a lower percentage in taxes. But the reason that they're paying lower percentages is so that they can keep reinvesting. Yes, that makes them rich, but what does it also do? It provides
jobs.
The ability for people to have jobs. This is another area that was in the debate last night concerning minimum wage. And I thought that was an interesting part of the debate. And, you know, it's easy, like to your point, Barry, it's very easy to say, oh, yeah, these people should get paid more. Look how hard they're working. However, what the net effect is if I make my, let's say, for instance, the serving staff at my restaurant now gets $15 an hour, what's going to ultimately happen is I'm going to have to fire half of my staff because I can't afford to keep them on the payroll anymore. And so this is also an area where you think, gosh, should minimum wage jobs be the kind of jobs that are supporting families going forward? That's actually your starting point. Minimum wage jobs are where people that are in college or high school should be going for that. And you should be trying to work up to a higher level. So there's a mentality thing there as well. But ultimately, raising the minimum wage hurts the very people that they say that it's supposed to benefit. And it actually puts small businesses out of business.
Okay, well, you went on quite a little jaunt there, a little journey,
because that's part of the debate.
Yeah, I was talking about the Trump's repeated comment on, I prepaid millions of dollars, and I think it's going to come back and bite him in the ass.
Let's go back to that, because do you doubt that billionaires prepay their taxes?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting, because actually Anne-Marie works in an accounting, or worked for a firm that actually works with these very rich people, and that is what they do. Okay. So it's something that I think, what to the point that you were making, is that people just don't know, and they're just going to believe what they want to believe.
Well, that is my point. Is I think it is, in the grand scheme of things, it's too complicated to say in sound bites. So you can either go with, you only paid $750 in taxes, or you pay almost nothing in taxes every year. And he can say, no, I prepay millions and millions of dollars in taxes, and it's all part of the same big can of soup that you can't make sense of.
Once again,
I can't in sound bites. You would have to do a 3-hour-long diatribe.
I agree. I think that the media, again, has done a disservice in this area, because if they were actually doing the right thing as far as journalism goes, they would be explaining this to us, and and helping us to be able to break down what the truth is versus a lie. Whether Trump is cheating the system or not, I don't know. But I don't know that he is, and I don't know that he isn't. And personally, I think that if we don't know and we don't have the evidence, we have to give them the benefit of the doubt. If there is evidence out there, that's what the news media is supposed to be doing. I think that we're not getting the evidence.
I'll tell you straight up, I don't think that he's lawfully cheating, illegally cheating anything. I think that we just, as I said before, our structure is for people with a whole lot of money to be able to invest, de-invest, and reinvest in certain areas to and have creative accounting and bank accounts that will come up showing very little to pay in taxes. That's just the way that it is here. So I
No,
don't
I
think
agree. I
I
agree.
don't think that you could get into an ethical debate on it. I don't even care to do that, but I don't think that there's anything. I mean, if you got the IRS climbing up him anymore, maybe they could find something somehow, some
Yeah,
way.
I'm pretty sure they're
They
doing
always
that.
can.
I'm
Yeah.
sure the IRS
But if they
is all
haven't
over that.
yet, let's say that it's pretty unlikely that he's done anything clearly illegal.
Yeah, I
Okay.
would agree. If you look at this guy's probably the most investigated president that we've ever had.
Oh, sure. I totally agree with that.
And
So
so if that
let's
were out there,
just,
that would definitely be like, here it is, and it's not. So
I think that we covered that enough because we still have, there's things that are going to come up as far as the Hunter Biden thing and how it implicates Joe. We need more information at this time. So let's just let that
that's what I think that
for now.
the mainstream media should actually investigate that.
They should, and they will.
They've refused to do that.
That's where the whole Russian disinformation thing.
Exactly.
Immediately, every mainstream media news network is armed with the buzzwords Russia disinformation, and they all say it in unison over and over again till you believe it.
There are two things I wanted to bring up here regarding the debate last night. One is the Joe Biden crime bill from 1993 or 1994 and how that was addressed, where he said that he never said that the super predator before. Yeah, he did. He is the guy that sponsored the crime bill that disproportionately put black men in prison and mandatory sentences. And I thought that Trump did do a good job of saying, okay, you're saying that you're going to do something about this, but you were in the presidential office for 8 years and you didn't do anything about that. And you can go back to the YouTube and you can see exactly what happened right there. I thought that was an interesting piece. And again, I think that the problem is that most people aren't going to go and research that and find out what the truth is. Secondly is the court packing deal of the Supreme Court. Joe Biden did weigh in on that finally, and he said that he believes that what he would do in the first 100 days of his presidency is he would create a commission to study the Supreme Court. He's not saying that he would pack the court, but he is saying that he would do a study on it because the court is getting out of whack. And we saw you had turned me on to the 5 last night to take a look at it. And Juan Williams was talking about this, and he was saying that the GOP is stacking the court, and that's taking the rights away from women. And then he went to the Obama deal where Merrick Garland wasn't allowed to, was not appointed to the Supreme Court. And I think there's a lot more information that needs to be had on that. But saying that you're going to create a commission because the court's getting out of whack, the fact is that constitutionally, that you should be able to do what the Constitution says that you're allowed to do, which is fill those seats. If you want to change the seats in order to get the courts out of whack or back in whack, then you're manipulating the system. I just think that there's more that we should be looking into. Again, I don't think the press is really reporting on this too much.
All right, I'm really ready to wind up. Do you have a final point on any of that?
I don't. That was it. I do think that, are we ready to wrap up the show at this point?
Geez, I got a big question for you that I've been really wondering. And it's a total different direction. If you could have any one superpower, what would it be?
I'm tempted to say that I could fly, but I'm also thinking it would be good to be invisible sometimes.
I think those are the two most popular.
How about you?
Well, it's interesting for me because I grew up reading comic books. I loved comic books, and I loved the whole fantasy of the superpowers. And although this isn't necessarily a superpower, I used to have dreams. I loved Spider-Man. And I
did
used
too.
I used to have dreams that I had as web shooters, and that was the fun as a kid. That's the funnest toy you could ever have in your life. And so I would have these dreams that I'm spinning these webs and swinging around and stuff. And then it would get to a point where it's like I start to realize it's a dream. And so they'd start coming out like silly string. And then and I would be trying to stay in the dream because it's so cool. And then all of a sudden they're just like not really coming out, like
you know what? That is really interesting. So I would have these dreams too, not about the webs, but about flying.
Me too.
Yeah.
Those two.
Those are some of my favorite dreams that I would have. But here's the thing that was terrible is that I could never control where I was flying. It was sort of like that show, The Greatest American Hero or whatever it was called.
Mine were a lot like that too.
Yeah, I could, and it would also be like, as soon as I would get kind of jazzed that, hey, I'm flying, that's when it would really just go out of whack. I'd start like, now I'm going up, now I'm going down. I could never
and you get scared. Oh my God, I go too high.
Yeah, I'm gonna crash. What does that mean? That's
I don't know.
Terrible thing.
I've had all those as well. The flight thing, oh my God.
Yeah.
It'd be just like the web shooter thing. I would be flying, it'd be really cool. And then I'd go, oh, well, this must be a dream. That would be a, and I'd start like, falling.
Silly string.
Well, what was really cool about that? I always remember this. So when I'd start flying, I'd be like, am I really flying? Well, I'm looking at the treetops. So it's got to be real because I've never seen this perspective before and I see it in perfect detail. So it must be real. Did you ever have that kind of a realization that you're dreaming that your mind is manufacturing this perfect environment?
Well, this would be more of what would happen to me is I would be in that real, oh my gosh, I'm actually wait, I can't be flying. This must be, then I'd wake up. And like, I would start. Then I'd try to go back to sleep. Yeah. We try to dream that again.
Me too.
And that would never work.
Another superpower that I loved, I don't know why, I always wanted was that stretchy thing, like Plastic Man. I could stretch my neck way out over there, my arms, I could stretch anywhere that I want. I always thought that was really
Did you have that toy growing up, Stretch Armstrong?
If not me, a neighbor did. I remember playing with it a little bit. We probably broke it in no time, and that gel would come out of it.
That disgusting gel.
Yeah. So those were fun. I know I had this conversation growing up all the time with my neighbors, and it'd be like, what superhero would you want to be? Well, you got to go with Superman all day long. If you only had one choice, because he's got every superpower in the freaking world. But yeah, I always hated Superman because it was so absolutely unbelievable. Because a fight with him couldn't last 0.1% of a second because he's got this unbelievable super speed and heat vision,
Yeah. How can you beat this guy? And I always thought, boy, Lex Luger is an idiot.
Luger.
Luger.
Loogie.
It's been a while since I watched any Superman, but obviously you've been reading those comic books.
Oh, I grew up on it.
Lex Luthor. What an idiot. How are you going to beat that guy? Like, it seems like he was always just, even if you had the kryptonite, I mean, like, what are your chances of being able to put that on this guy and actually win? But, you're right. I thought that Superman was really cool. And if I were going to be a superhero, that's exactly what I would be. And I did really like his whole truth, justice, and the American way thing. Yeah, he was sort of the goody good guy. Mm-hmm. Unlike Spider-Man was more like Peter Parker.
He had problems. He was a teenager. He is a teenager with problems, and that's why. And that was Superman was DC Comics, which was real, way off fantasy, utopian type stuff back in the day. Where Marvel Comics, Spider-Man, Captain America, stuff like that, was more rooted in realism. So it was as much about their alter egos, or maybe even more so than it was their hero. They had problems. That's why you related to them. Peter Parker was nothing but every time he had to go change into Spider-Man to save the day, he screwed up his personal life somehow. And it made it interesting.
It did. I think the whole concept of superheroes, I personally match it up with the Bible and say, you know, the true superhero is Jesus Christ. And you start to look at these superpowers that he has, that these superheroes have. There's a lot of similarities there when you start to look at it, and also similarities to our humanness as you take a look at Peter Parker or the problems that we have, and then you compare that to the superpowers, and then trying to fit into this world, you know, as a superhero and the problems that you have here, and you take a look at your spiritual journey and how that can cause problems in your life as well, even with your relationships. It's a very interesting comparison to make. And I think there's a study there that somebody can do, or a book that somebody could write to make those comparisons. That would be pretty interesting.
Something that we didn't even touch on that we wanted to, as I recall, a couple of days ago, we talked it to what you just said, politically, how it's torn up our personal relationships.
You know what? This is something I really wanted to be able to talk about, but I think we're running out of time here. But I did want to bring up, as we're wrapping up the show here, we did get a pretty high compliment about our show. An old friend of mine wrote in that I have not been in touch with for at least 20 years. And she used to be a neighbor of mine. And she wrote in that she had listened to the show. It was the one where it was Hallie's birthday. So this was back in September. She had listened to the show. She enjoyed the show. She said that she actually called herself, that she was on the far left. And she brought up the subject of, you know, hey, would you imagine if these kids had gone to school this whole time and had not quarantined themselves, and what would have been the consequences of that? Something we can talk about in a future show. Mm-hmm. But I think the big compliment is here's somebody that's on seemingly the far left. Neither one of us are. And she would have severe differences in the opinions that we have versus the opinion that she has. Mm-hmm. And yet she enjoyed the show, which speaks to the fact that this is the most important part of the show to me, mm-hmm. is that here we can show by example that two people who are very different from each other have very different opinions about things. I'm right, you're left. I'm black, you're white. I live on the West Coast. You live in the Midwest. I'm a Christian. You have more of a different spiritualism.
Unitarian. I'd call it Unitarian.
Okay, so I mean, but yet we can come together, have differences of opinions, talk through them. Maybe we agree to disagree, but we listen to each other. Sometimes we change our minds based on what the other one says. Sometimes we don't, and we still respect and love each other.
I gotta say something to that right there. I thought you made a very interesting point, is that we have open mind. Our minds are open enough that we modify our beliefs. That's not hard set. It's really huge, because you can't get closer to the truth unless that you're willing to have more information enter in.
I personally think that if people come into conversations and they will admit to themselves, like I do, I don't know everything, and I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. And so let me listen to what this other person has to say, and let me just judge for myself. I think that's what makes America great.
And that's what freedom of speech is about. You can throw out 75, even 90% of what they say because you don't like it. But if you listen, you're going to find at least 10% of a gem in there.
Many of the things that we talked about today politically have everything to, at its root, it has everything to do with this concept of the American way of, hey, if we all get together with our differences of opinions and have an open mind, we can create a better world for not only ourselves, but also our kids and our kids' kids. And that's what I hope to give to the world through this show, especially on this anniversary. Congratulations, Barry. We made it through 1 year. I think that you are fantastic at what you do in everything that you do. You've done such a great job with the show. Your personality is great. And by the way, I have friends, lots of them, that listen to the show, and the first thing they say is, I love that Barry guy.
Oh, man, that's
And so
awesome.
Congratulations to you. It's been a great year. I'm looking forward to the next year of being
Me
able to
too.
do this with you. I'm excited about next week's show,
Season 3.
Yeah, how about that?
It's amazing.
It's a great accomplishment, and I want to say thank you to Deb, who wrote in last week, who I was talking about, and thank you to all the people that patron our show. I think it's fantastic that you're with us. We love you, and keep on listening. There's more to come, Barry.
I really appreciate everything you said, and the show wouldn't even be half this without you. Your preparation, your allegiance to the Constitution, your belief system, your decency as a human being that you bring onto the show. I can't say enough about it, but it's a classic case of the sum being bigger than the parts, because it's our chemistry, it's our friendship that is the basis for the show. I know that for sure. That's why we got started, because we would be wasting all these phone calls, you and I, hour and a half long phone calls, and never recording them. It bothered the hell out of me. It really did, because
I remember that.
They were so fun and so engaging. And I just always said, oh, God, these should be a podcast. I listen to podcasts all day, every day. I know what a good podcast is. So it couldn't be this without you. And again, the preparation that you do, I just want to say that it certainly does not go unnoticed. It is clearly your passion. Your passion is brought forth on here. Thank you for that. I want to say one thing on the lighter side is, do you realize that the Fleetwood Mac's Rumors album, the Dreams single, re-entered the top 10 for the first time after a 42-year absence because of that TikTok video? Have you heard about that? That guy, middle-aged guy on a skateboard, lip syncing. His name's Nathan Apodaca. You've heard of that, didn't you?
I didn't actually, no.
Well, yeah, so he's just lip singing Dreams from the Fleetwood Mac Rumors album from 42 years ago. Dude, it's on the top 10 again. People that never heard of Fleetwood Mac in that song are now like, this is the best. Do you remember the Fleetwood Mac Rumors album?
Of course. And
it's so good.
Even the name of that, just Dreams, there's something about that.
So
look, that's
how
powerful dreams actually are.
Oh my God. Amazing. So I just, guys, if you haven't heard it in a while, look up Dreams on Fleetwood Mac Dreams on YouTube. Give that a listen to. Again, that entire album is classic beyond classic, and it deserves to be back. It deserves to be opened up to this whole new audience yet again. It really does. So good.
Hey, let's wrap it up, Barry.
Absolutely. So go to Overfiftystartingover.com, sign up for our email list. You get everything right to your email box. You can even sign up for our Facebook page right from there. Merle, love you so much. I can't wait to talk to you next week for season 3. We'll talk to you soon.